Why, hello, everyone. Welcome to Joleen's Happy Time Craftcast. I am delighted to see you on this beautiful Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. Today's guest is very special, and I know I say that every time, and this week is absolutely no different. She's a very good friend, and I'm going to pull her out in just one moment. But before we get to today's special guest, just a couple things I want to talk to you about. The first thing is that one of you lovely humans sent me anonymously a book. And that book is called The Dot. It just arrived in the mail yesterday. And this book is about a young artist who says they can't even draw a circle. And I say all the time that I can't even draw a cat. Like, you want me as your Pictionary partner because I am a heck of a guesser. Like, I'm so good at guessing. I'm just terrible at drawing, even though I live my life as an artist. And so I don't know who this came from, but it's a beautiful story about this young artist who draws a circle and draws more and more circles and more circles until finally they are an artist of circles. And then they meet somebody who says they can't even draw a line. And then they inspire that person to just practice and sign their name. So whomever sent this to me, well received, very thoughtful. Thank you so much. I will treasure it always. I'll put it on the coffee table over at Big Raven Farm. And thank you so much. You're just the sweetest. So thank you for that. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is we are retreat season at Big Raven Farm is about to get absolutely crazy. So if you haven't registered for your 2025 retreat at Big Raven Farm, you probably want to scurry on over to those registration pages because we are selling out. And thank you so much for that. I appreciate that too. So if you kind of feel like you're going to wait until later, I'd like to just put in a little plug for you to get there sooner than later because they are filling up, which again, very grateful for. Okay, so that's all of the businessy things that I wanted to talk to you about today. Now, I want to talk with my dear friend, Hannah Arnold, who is an embroidery artist. She's an educator, and she is the founder of Sherwood Forest Creations. And she started embroidery and stitching in 2019 as a creative outlet while working part-time as a physical therapist. She now creates keepsake wedding bouquets, and she teaches so many of us how to do embroidery through her kits and her online courses, her Zoom classes. Her whole idea is that she's going to make stitching approachable for all skill levels, and she has a new course coming out that I can't wait to talk to her about. So I know you'll welcome her with so much enthusiasm because she's awesome. Here she is. Here's Hannah. Hi, Hannah. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi. Thank you for
Hi. Thank you for being back. I appreciate that.
Yes, of course. Anytime.
Awesome. So when you were on last time, I said, Hannah, I really don't think I could do this. I don't think that I could embroider like a real thing because I'm going to use some visual aids here. So for those of you listening later and you can't see us, I'm sorry. I will describe this to the best of my ability. But usually when I embroider, I do something like this. Like I take fabric, I cut the fabric scraps into the shape of, in this example, it's a rainbow, and then I just stitch around it. But I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of making it up as I go along. Like I don't really have patterns or anything like that. But you were on here and you said, I guarantee you can do it. Like those were your exact words. Do you remember saying that to me?
I do.
And look what I made.
I know. It's so cute.
This is Hannah's Lindsay Kit. And like, look at, like, that's
you did a wonderful job.
All right. And I completely caught the bug. So tell me, do you have other students like me who don't believe you and then all of a sudden?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I get messages all the time from people, and especially for that kit, because that's my most popular beginner kit, and one of my originals from back when I first started selling kits. So that kit in particular, I get a lot of photos of that kit.
I bet.
Finished product saying like, I cannot believe that I made this. Like, just
like I did.
Yeah.
Well, and Hannah, I loved it. Like I loved the process of making it. And, so remind folks what comes in the kit. Like, what came in this kit?
So all of my beginner level kits, all my kits in general, my full size kits, they come with the hoop and the fabric already hooped in the hoop for you. And
Yes, yes.
And then all the thread that you need, the needles that you need, and felt for backing if you want to put a backing on it to cover up the mess in the back. If you want to, you can cover it. But you also have the option to have the design pre-stamped onto the fabric for you. So it's like an outline of the design, and that stamp is heat erasable. So when you're done stitching, if your stitching wasn't completely perfect, you can erase the marks around the outer edge that might still be visible with the heat from a hair blow dryer or an iron, and the marks will erase. So then no one will know if it wasn't completely perfect, because they're supposed to be for beginners. So
well, that's the thing. Like when you said this was your most popular beginner kit, I was skeptical. I was like, no, because it looks so fancy. Like I look like a real embroidery person. Like
people see the roses and they're like immediately scared. Immediately, like, there's no way I can do that, when roses are like by far one of the easiest things to do in embroidery. It's mostly on top. You know, you're not even diving into the fabric much. You're mostly kind of wrap around.
I apologize for my skepticism because I did not believe it. But the other thing that comes in the kit, for those of you who might be skeptical like me, is the QR code to the tutorial. So talk a little bit about that, because that is like, that for me is what made this possible.
Right. So what I wanted when I started learning embroidery, and I'm not a learn by reading person, or like learn visual. I'm a visual learner. So like I need video. I need, and I have really, my husband will tell you, I have really horrible spatial abilities. So like I can't picture something in 3D. Like if you're just showing it to me like a still photo of a needle going into the fabric, I'm like, well, which side are you on and which direction are you coming from? Like I cannot. So I was only able to learn through video. So when I decided to start making my own patterns and making kits, I knew right away the only way I was going to do that was if I made video tutorials instead of written tutorials. And I know everybody learns differently, so no hate on written tutorials, right? But I know there's other people like me who would rather get in video. So all of my kits come with a video tutorial specific to that design. So it's not just reference videos. Like they're not just, okay, here's me stitching this particular stitch in a straight line. Now go do it in a circle. You know, I'm showing you, I'm stitching that design right along with you.
Yes.
So, and it's all edited, so you're not sitting there with me for, you know, endless hours stitching.
Well, and Hannah, your videos actually, I don't think I've ever told you this, but your video inspired me to change the way that I do my craft club videos, because for my craft club, you know, every month, you know, they have a project and then we do that project together live. But in their kit, they get all the things. And I was doing all of the instructions step by step as a PDF. And I was procrastinating because it was taking me longer to do the directions than the project. Right. Because it's each photo and then each photo is placed. And then, you know, Darren would proofread for me and he would be like, I'm not really sure, because he wasn't making it. And then when I got your kit, I was like, oh my gosh, a QR code to go like make it together. And so I started doing that with my craft club. And now their projects are the same idea that they, right. And with a PDF too, like I was putting so much paper in these kits. Right.
And so much printing.
Right. So much printing. And like I use garbage materials. So that kind of was like, you know, in my brain, not really working out. But like when you get the Lindsay kit, I still have the QR code and I can go back and keep referencing because I made several because I caught the bug.
For sure, yeah. And people like to do the kit in different colors and you know, change up, or they like to change up, like maybe swap out a specific stitch for a different stitch, or like, you know, they just get an idea and get inspired to make little modifications to it.
So is the Lindsay still your best-selling kit?
It's my best selling, as in I've sold the most of those kits since originally launching that kit. But last year, in March of last year, I launched this one, which is Evelyn's Bouquet of Daisies.
Oh, I love Evelyn's
And
bouquet.
So this one's named after, can you see it? I'm like, I'm making sure I'm in the
No, we got it. It's beautiful.
Evelyn, it's a bouquet of, it's 3 white daisies and a little like wildflower bouquet. named after my daughter, Evelyn. So
it's so beautiful.
she used to bring me little handfuls of
Yes.
white daisies from our wildflower garden. And so I named that one after her. But now that one is, if you look at just the calendar year, that one is my bestseller.
Okay.
So, and again, same idea, comes with a design stamped on there, and then you follow along with me stitching it with you.
Right.
Very beginner friendly, and not as many French knots.
Right. Because before we turned the dewdrop around, friends, I was saying to Hannah that like I've watched her hands make a million French knots. I've watched like in slow motion, like what am I missing? How can I not do this? Because my French knots kind of end up looking more like loopy filler.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not mad about it.
No, they're so
it
cute.
still looks cool, but I would like to get it because
Yeah.
there are other places where you need a French knot, and mine still look kind of loosey goosey.
It most of the time, if your French knots either end up in one way or the other, they end up too big, or
Yes.
they tangle and you can't pull the thread.
Oh, yes.
Knot. So it's because of how much tension you have on your opposite hand. So the hand that's like holding the thread off to the side,
Yes,
like pulling the needle through with one hand and the other hand is holding the thread off to the side. If that hand is not tight enough, like if you're not pulling tight enough,
mine is very tight.
then you get it's like either you get a mess, or you get or it like, gets trapped in there, or if you're pulling too tight, then it's like it almost like knots up on you before you get all the thread through. So
yes,
that end up with like this big loop on top.
That's what I do. I am holding on to that like it's a life preserver.
Heavy-handed.
Yeah,
with the left hand. Yeah,
like there's a person on the other end in a life preserver, and I'm holding on like I will not lose them. Like I hold it so tight, and then I get these great big loops. But the thing is about embroidery is I freaking love it. I love it so
relaxing.
much.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
Well, they say that they say, oh, I never have the patience. I would never have the patience for that. And like, I'd be the first person to tell you, I'm not a patient person. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm not a patient person. So with embroidery, yeah, it's a longer craft. You're not going to be able to finish it in the same time that you might be able to finish like a painting, like a small, a painting of the same type of level. But with embroidery, it's so rhythmic, and you can only go as fast as you can go. And so it forces you to go slower, and you just kind of go on autopilot, and it's really relaxing.
I think I made my Lindsay though in 3 hours.
That one is a relatively fast one. Yeah. So 3 hours for an embroidery project is amazing. That size.
Yes.
Just
love it. I love it so much. And I didn't know how much I loved it because I had been doing, my, I guess, applique, right? Like taking here's one of my favorites, like taking scraps.
The mushrooms.
And like just free cutting mushrooms. And like, I don't even know what that stitch is called. Like, I just call it a whip stitch. I don't know. That's like a real name.
It's kind of hard for me to see, but you're doing a mix of like seed stitching and blanket stitch around the edge.
Yeah, just like to get that thing to hold down. Is
like you're just tacking it on.
Tacking it on. That's like where my skill set is. But then after I did the Lindsay, I then dug a little bit deeper to figure out how to do some so this is just a piece of fabric that I have then stitched on top of the flower that was there with different stitches. And look at these freaking French knots. Like I finally got it.
Yeah, there you go.
Only 8 of them. Like it wasn't like a huge win.
8 is better than nothing.
But my point is that I'm inspired, and in all of the crafty things I do, honestly, the embroidery to me seems like almost the most accessible with resources.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like it's not cost prohibitive, but like a lot of things.
Not at all. No. I mean, when I first started embroidery, I went to Joann's, rest in peace. I went to Joann's, and I spent $15 and to get several skeins of thread, a couple different of the wrong types of fabrics because I didn't know what I was supposed to be.
Right.
And a hoop and needles, and there you go. So now that was kind of my whole reason for starting to teach classes, because when I went, I didn't know what to buy, and I bought some of the wrong things. So it would have been inexpensive if I bought the right things, but I didn't know what to buy. And because embroidery isn't so cut and dry with materials the way some other art forms are, where it's like, if you want to do watercolors, you need watercolor brushes, watercolor paper, watercolor paint.
Right.
Everything's labeled that way.
Mhm.
Whereas with embroidery, there's embroidery needles and embroidery thread and embroidery hoops, but the fabric is like, it's a free for all. So a lot of people end up buying like the cloth, the cross stitch cloth and on Amazon, or they buy the wrong things. So and then they're not sure where to start and what to do. So that was why I started teaching in the first place.
Can you believe it now? Like it's been can you believe it now?
You know what? I was just looking at my calendar and I just marked it in my calendar because what day was it? It's May. This Friday, May 9th, will be the 5th anniversary of my first class. So my first Zoom class. I taught it on Zoom initially when I was first getting started because that was COVID, the height of COVID. May 2020, when we were all locked down still. That was my first Zoom class. My son was 3 months old. And
look what happened.
Now here we are. Now I'm on a podcast.
Right. And we blinked, right? We blinked and all of these other great things are happening. And so, okay. So I know we've talked about it a lot. So there is some embroidery intimidation, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. There is. And I had it too. I mean, you are a dear friend and I didn't believe a word you said when you said I could do this. I was like, there's absolutely no way I could do this because I'm not patient. I'm kind of fast. I'm kind of messy. And so what do you say to folks who are who believe the intimidation, who believe that the neat backs, and the perfect stitches are a thing? How do you help us get out of our own way?
I guess to me, because I get hate a lot, especially on YouTube, because I will share a messy back, or because to me, I value a clean back when it has value. So to me,
right, when you see it or something,
has value when you're going to be wearing an item, or when the back is going to be visible, or you're doing a piece that's like multi-dimensional, where you can, or it's sheer, like you can see the cloth, or what have you.
Yeah, but those cute little baby onesies you make, right? I would imagine that the other side of that needs to not be all,
because that would be uncomfortable to wear.
Right.
The cleanliness has a function. So I mean, I'm very pragmatic. So it has a function. And time is the most valuable thing to me. So when it comes to my wedding bouquets and the way that I approach my wedding bouquets, because I'm not doing strictly traditional embroidery by any means with my wedding bouquets. So when I'm in the heat of the moment of adding little bits of color here and there, and I have my one color and I'm making little dashes around, I am not worried about what the back looks like in the lace fit. Because
how dare you, Hannah?
I know, and I just because I'm in the. It's to me, I can only equate it to when you see a painter splattering paint and really just dancing. When you see painters dance around their canvas, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm dancing around my embroidery.
I love that. I love that visual of now I'm here and now I'm over there.
In my brain, that's what I'm doing this, but really, if you were to look at me, I'm just I'm just sitting in one exact spot and just stitching, but in my brain I'm dancing around the canvas. So
and for those of you who might not be familiar, let me just interject. So Hannah every year takes 3-ish commissions and she does reproductions of wedding bouquets. And so it's kind of lucky to get your number called, right? Because you can't do a whole bunch of these in a year because they take so much time.
Each one takes me roughly somewhere over 40 hours to complete. And because that's not the only thing that I do,
right?
The bread and butter of my business are my courses and my kits and keeping those in stock and making new ones and everything. So I only take 3 a year. So usually I have a wait list. I put them out and then they're gone. But I mean, thank you. Thank you, Lord. They're gone in a couple of hours. So
which is so great.
Every time I just am in shock that they sell so quickly or the spots go so fast. But lots of smart husbands out there, I'll say that.
Right. Okay, but I interrupted. So you were talking about messy backs and those of us who are intimidated by the perfection of this art form.
I went squirrel on you.
That's okay.
The messy back thing, no. I mean, most of the time when people ask me about it, or they'll mention something about like their grandmother or their aunt or their great aunt, you know, saying like,
Yes.
oh, well, my great aunt, you know, you couldn't tell the back from the front. And I'll say that, okay, great. That's very, I
Good
mean,
job, Auntie.
they're
Good
big
job.
Asian people. Yeah, that's wonderful. But why is that stopping you from making something beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
So if you really, because who's gonna look at the back? It only
Right.
are you entering it into the county fair? Okay, then
Mm-hmm.
maybe make sure the back is nice. But if you're not entering it into the county fair, that and you just want to make something pretty, it's an art form. It's art.
Mm-hmm.
It's not meant to be judged by others unless you
Right.
are putting it into a competition. So
Well, you know what
why
I think it is? This intimidation factor. And Kathy, thank you for this comment. Hannah and I were just talking about the butterfly kit before we turned on. I think part of the intimidation factor comes from that godforsaken satin stitch. I really do.
yeah.
Because because it's like it's standard, it's a standard embroidery stitch.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard to like get it even, to get it smooth, to get the angle going right.
To
Like
perfect it, yeah.
to perfect it, right?
Mhm.
So tell us about how you feel about the satin stitch and also about like some of the new ways that you create and put stitches in your kits because you're not by the book, right? You're not
Right.
a by the
No.
book stitcher person.
I'm not. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Kathy, too. And thank you for my floral pattern. I try to avoid. Well, my kits are meant for beginners, so are
Okay.
most of my kits. I have a couple of intermediates now, but I mostly make beginner kits, and I want them to be truly beginner friendly. So I go to lengths to make sure that the stitches that I'm including in those kits
Mm-hmm.
are beginner friendly, and that I
Mm-hmm.
can teach them in a way that makes them very approachable and easy to get. So the French knots are the one thing that is one thing, it just takes practice because
Yes.
it's a lot about tension. So that one is one of is the hardest you'll ever have to do. And one of my kits, I think, is the French knot. But with satin
Mm-hmm.
stitch, it's more of if you're a perfectionist, satin
Right.
stitch
It's more the
will
person.
drive you crazy. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not a perfectionist, so but I know that people are. So I try to
Mm-hmm.
avoid it. So most of my kits come with stitches that are some stitches that are very straightforward, ones that you'd find in a textbook, and other ones that are a little bit more adaptive, a little bit more modern. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it in that pattern, and there's no guesswork around it. So
Right.
you're going to dive in and have me stitching it along with you. And the videos are, unlimited access. You can watch these
Yeah.
you need to, and I set them up so that they're in sections so that you're not learning like too much at once. You
Yeah.
learn how to do the leaves and then, okay, go do all the leaves, and you can just
Yeah.
practice over and over again and then come back and then I'll teach you how to do the roses, so it's broken up into sections that way.
I love the leaves. I love like my Lindsay, like
It's
friends.
so cute.
I
Yeah.
I made this. I
You're so
I
proud.
did this. And Hannah said I could, and I didn't believe her. And then, like, I remember, like, I opened the package and I was like, oh God, I feel like I'm gonna wreck it, because it's so pretty. And then when I was successful, I like made four more. Like, I just absolutely love it. And so the thing about like your work, Hannah, I think that a lot of us appreciate is your attention to detail and the unique way of creating flowers.
Mhm.
Um, and your community must say the same thing that I'm saying because you responded with an advanced course, right?
Right. Yeah.
On florals.
Floral.
So tell us about that. What's that about now?
So because I only offer 3 wedding bouquets a year, I
Yeah.
started in because I, built a really wonderful community learning embroidery and wanting to dive more into
Mhm.
embroidery. After I had initially launched my recorded online course, my beginner course, I started getting people saying, well, when's the level 2 coming out? When's the next one coming out?
Right.
And then I also had people coming in saying, hey, would you make a pattern, a custom pattern for me of my wedding bouquet so that I can stitch it
Mhm.
myself? Like I want to give it a go and stitch my own wedding bouquet. Well, initially I was kind of putting that off because it felt like a lot to take on. And I didn't want to just hand someone a pattern without
Right.
any guidance, but it would be too
Right.
hard for me to try to give individual guidance. I knew I didn't have the time to do that, to really
Mhm.
offer individual guidance with each person in their bouquet
Right.
because I don't approach things traditionally.
Right.
So I created my advanced floral embroidery course as an answer to that. So I'm offering custom PDF patterns as an option as well. So people can send their wedding bouquet photos to me. I'll create the outline for you and scale to size, send it back to you. Then you can join the advanced floral embroidery course, and I have that broken up into flower type. So if your bouquet includes lilies, you can watch the tutorial on lilies. If it includes, and it has a million different types of flowers in there, a bunch of different types of flowers, and some of it is, and a lot of crossover where you can utilize similar techniques for different types of flowers that have a similar texture. So it's an answer to both of those requests, kind of.
Right. I'm just shaking my head because, friend, that is impressive. Like, that is an impressive, like, amount of content and teaching and, like, responding to what, your community has asked for. And, in my own experience, the way that you teach, so grateful that I gave it a go and got over my embroidery intimidation because, like, once you get the little bite, right, you take a little nip, you take a little nip of that sauce, and you definitely want some more.
Nothing is safe. Every article of clothing,
right? House, they've like got like a J on like everything now. Right. Yeah. So one of the things that my people here love to talk about is we love to talk about travel and go bags and like, right. And how you are organized to take your projects with you on the road. So how do you organize? Because sometimes, honestly,
I'm literally right now, I'm surrounded by Ziploc bags. I'm not even kidding you. I have like 4 different Ziploc bags.
Oh my God, you've got like the gallon and the triple gallon or whatever that is. Okay, so how do you pack them? Because sometimes when I travel, I don't pull out my embroidery because it's kind of all messy and stuff. So tell us what you do.
I don't know how I have not been sponsored by Ziploc yet because I carry Ziploc bags around with me everywhere I go. I have one in the car. I have one in I used to have one in the diaper bag. I used to have one in my work bag and stuff. So I just throw everything I need. Embroidery is so easy to travel with because all you need is the hoop that you're working on or whatever piece you're working on, your needles, your thread, and your scissors, and that's it. So I just put them in Ziploc bags because, of course, I don't want them to get wet. It protects them from the elements. And then because I am again a visual person, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist in my brain. So if I have to have a clear bag, as much as I love some of the really adorable like canvas.
Oh yeah.
They're so cute and aesthetic looking. But if I can't quickly see, okay, yes, I have those 4 things, then I will inevitably walk out without my scissors or without something in that bag. I'll have taken it out, forgotten I took it out, and then.
So so very important question. So do your Ziploc bags move with you or do you have them planted? Like we had a guest on who, get this bright idea. She has a project by zone. So like if she's in if she's in her TV room and she's watching a show, she has a bigger project.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's bigger, right? That's not the one she takes in the car when she's a passenger. She has a different bag for that. Yeah. So like, tell us like where you fall in this.
I think I'm doing that. I was like, wow, that's brilliant. And as I'm sitting here, I think I do that because, yes, my wedding bouquets never leave. Like my wedding bouquets are here. They're at my house. They never leave.
They're sacred.
They're sacred. Yeah. Because they're such a big project, like to spill would be like, out to pasture. So I can't deal with the risk of anything with that. So my wedding bouquets typically stay here. Once in a while I will travel with them, but then I'll usually have a car project, which is usually something that's on clothing. So like this is my car project. I just brought it out here because I didn't know if we were going to talk about it or if I was going to have time to stitch. So I brought this one out here, but it's a jean jacket that I'm putting little daisies. This one's already finished. So it's just a little pink daisy with a purple on my daughter. This is my daughter's jean jacket. That I'm putting on the front shoulders of her.
Yes.
But, So like that's a car project, that's a soccer project, soccer practice project. And then I have my
You
dress.
do it. You have a zone game too. You have a zone game. Yes.
The dress is the travel. Like that's like I'll go anywhere with this.
Right.
With the dress, because that's like my side project. That's for me. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, okay. So for those of you who are live with us and you're in the chat, like now is your opportunity. You can put your questions in the chat. We'll get them. We'll get them to Hannah so she can see them. We got right here. Kathy's excited to see the dress.
Yeah,
I'm excited
too,
to see the dress. Yeah. Like that's been a great social media tease. Like I love that whole project. I think that's
whose idea was that? That was Andrea's.
Was it?
Well, yes, in the group chat, because I was saying I was really stumped with social media stuff, and I was like, I just feel like I'm because of the course and stuff, I'm like just selling a lot. Like I'm just like, here's the course, here's the course, here's the course.
Right.
To necessarily show fun.
Right.
And she's like, well, what have you been wanting to do for yourself? I'm like, I want to embroider on a dress from top to bottom. Like that's what I want to do. And she was like, then just do it, Hannah. Like just do it, and just share parts of your process. You don't have to do it every day, but just whenever you can, just throw it in there. And so
I remember that now. Yeah. Oh yeah. So Hannah and I are part of a very elite group of like crafty people. We have a girl chat, like we have, like a lot of people do, and of course it has like its own name, and like we have uniforms and like the whole thing.
You have uniforms. Oh my gosh.
And they're lovely humans that we talk to every day. So shout out to the other three who are not here today. Lacey, Andrea,
Andrea, and I'm saying like everybody probably does know who she is, but Andrea, right.
Andrea,
a dream or a day art. So she's just fantastic.
Yes. Well, okay, so we're excited to see the dress. And folks, if you have questions for Hannah, you can pop them in there while I ask Hannah this next thing. Okay, so the advanced floral class launched and going. Kits launched and going. You're working on wedding bouquets, the 3 that you have in this year. What else? Is there anything else? I mean, that's plenty. Is there anything else percolating that you want to let us know about, or like, what are you dreaming of next?
I'm mostly right now, I need to buckle down, like I was telling you earlier, on my wedding bouquets, because I do this every year where I say I'm going to get started early so that I can be done early, because I want to get them done before Christmas time, because a lot of times they're presents. And so I always start it, that first one, and then I end up getting caught up in other projects.
Yes.
And then it sits for a while. So that's, again, what happened, because I got so involved in getting the advanced floral class out that I really put that first one on the back burner. So I'm working on the dress in the background, and I'm going to start buckling down on my wedding bouquets. And then I'm always thinking of new ideas for stick and stitch patch kits.
Yes.
So stick and stitch, if you're not familiar, is it's an adhesive self-stabilizing patch for embroidery. So, or maybe self-adhesive stabilizing patch. So it's, you peel it off. It has a design like already on it, printed on it. You peel it off, you stick it to your jean jacket, your overalls, your t-shirt, your hat, your tote bag, your blanket, whatever. And you stitch right through it. And then the patch itself dissolves in water. So then you're left with just your stitches behind. So it's like this really great way to transfer your design onto
anywhere,
anything. And then it dissolves. So it's really nice for beginners. It's really nice for stitching on clothing or things that are like a little bit on the thinner side, especially because it gives like some inherent stability to the fabric item. And those are really fun. And a lot of people will message, especially in the beginning, would message me like, I love your work. I love the embroidery hoops. But like, what do I do with it? Like, what am I supposed to do with it after? Because they don't necessarily see it as something that in their world that they would hang up on the wall. To me, I'm always like, you hang it, you frame it.
Right. Of course you do. Like what do you mean?
Yeah, I have them in my house, you frame them, but some people just like, they want something functional. So that was when I started.
Like functional on their clothing. Okay.
Yes, so like you can make it functional. Like, so you're decorating clothing, you're covering a stain, you're covering a rip in a t-shirt, you're decorating, you're doing custom gifts for people. So like lots of baby items, like customized blankets, customized little toddler outfits, bibs or onesies and like that sort of thing. So that's always going on.
Right.
Around our our designs for stick and stitch patches.
And how to make it functional. And I noticed too that like you also have, since Mother's Day is this weekend, you are doing gift certificates too.
Yeah, I always have gift cards available.
Right.
So
Gift
people who
cards.
want to
Okay.
do gift cards and whatever, amount that you want to do
Mm-hmm.
for those, because my courses, especially because of the way you sign up, you have to use an email address to log in. So when
Right.
people want to purchase like the course for somebody and
Mm-hmm.
they still want it to be a surprise, then they'll
Right.
purchase the gift card. And so then that person can go ahead and purchase the course after
Nice.
Mother's Day.
So how long does it take to get through the beginner course and the advanced floral course? Do you think that your people look at it like, how much time is this going to take me? Is that like one of their like metrics for making their decision about if they're going to take take an embroidery course?
I don't know. I think more people are not necessarily concerned about the timing of it, because both
Mm,
courses are just over 2 hours worth of content, like two
sure.
hours worth of tutorials, but you would spend more than 2 hours actually
Because you
doing
want to stop
things.
and apply,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so I don't know if it's necessarily a time thing. I think sometimes people, when they're just starting embroidery, because like what we were saying before, it's not so straightforward as some
Mhm.
other art forms, is that like some people, they'll just get a stitch sampler somewhere and they'll learn that stitch sampler where it's like they just teach you 5 different stitches or 10
Mhm.
different stitches, but there's nothing else with it. It's just that
Right, like, how do you
sampler.
bring that all together into a
Yeah.
thing? Yeah.
So with my course, it's more of like, yeah, you get that, you get 11 different stitches, but you get way more than that. Like you
Right.
get way more like information on the proper materials and
Mhm.
using those proper materials, transferring patterns, how to choose which stitch to use where, more application, like you said, lots of tips and tricks to like avoid
Mhm.
heartache when you're
Right.
stitching and that sort of thing. But
So,
um,
do you have people then also reach out you must, with troubleshooting? Does that happen as well where they're like, "I want this, what's the solution?"
you know what? I don't think I've ever had anybody reach out in regards to a kit. I don't think I've ever had anybody, and
Mm.
I've sold over 6,000 of my beginner friendly kits. I don't think I've had anybody reach out to say, I need more explanation on
Right.
XYZ. Because like I said, I go to painstaking
Yeah.
details to make sure that these are beginner friendly and that there is no stone left unturned. I mean, my husband will tell you I can turn a 5-minute story into an hour. So
Yeah.
I want to give you every detail. You
Right.
need to know like the time stamps of when it happened. And so I try to do that with my course, except that
Yeah.
in my kits, but except that I edit out any of the unnecessary stuff.
Right. They are. Yeah. I mean, I went through the whole beginner course. And then of course I did my tutorial on
Mhm.
my Lindsay, which
Yeah.
again, look at this beautiful thing I made that Hannah designed and I can't believe I made it. So I do appreciate like you've got the editing down. Like there's nothing in there. Like that deciphering part, like when you're
Yeah.
teaching someone how to do something, like you take out all the fillers. So it's
Yes.
just to the decipher.
Hmm.
And I think that makes it like so much easier for people to absorb, at least in my experience. If you can trim all of like you don't have that, well, if you this, then that, right?
Yeah.
Like you stay right to the do this and you'll get that.
Yeah. Yes. I try not to leave too much room for
Right.
like guess. I don't want you to be guessing about anything. I don't
Right.
want you to be thinking, well, do I do this or do I do that? Or
Right.
it's no, it's this and just keep going, you
Well,
know?
and I think that in a craft that has got a reputation for being somewhat intimidating, and I mean, it does. It can be intimidating, right? Like we look at it, I did, like it seems inaccessible to me, like I do not have the skill set. And then once I realize, oh my gosh, I do have it, because of the way in which I learned, I'm so grateful that I
Yeah.
didn't have to figure that out by myself. Like
Right.
you,
Yeah.
you took me through. Like, come
That's
on,
why I always
Jolene.
tell people, I'll hold your hand. I'm gonna hold
Yeah,
your hand
totally.
while we do this.
Totally.
It's gonna be
So
we're right
so
there together.
so in your personal life then, or even in your work life as a crafty person, and I know you don't identify as a crafty person. So what are you working on? Like what's feeding you and your soul right now? Is
Well,
it the dress?
I'm in Michigan, so the weather turning is feeding
Right.
my soul. Like just a
Yes.
beautiful day today, and it's Michigan. It's
Mhm.
like all over the place, so that's
Yeah.
definitely feeding my soul. Um, I I don't know. I've started to listen to different podcasts also, and I
Okay.
feel like that's been fun too to like listen to
Mhm.
other crafty podcasts
Yes.
and then also Amy Poehler's new podcast
Oh,
too. I just
God.
love her.
Yes.
She's so
Love her.
funny. So like that, I just puts a smile on my face while I'm working, and less
Mhm.
likely to be thinking about other things if I'm listening to something
Mhm. Mhm.
hilarious while I go. So
Yeah. Yeah. So on my work table, okay, so I so I have like a few things in my brain that I cannot wait for them to like kind of come out. Um I want to do more mosaics with my book board.
mhm.
But I want to be a little bit smarter about how I do it because, my son Ray, the one that was on CBS Sunday Morning for like 5 seconds a couple months ago,
Yeah.
that one nearly broke me because of the way I did it. Like I just made it so much more complicated, I think, than it needed to be. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out new ways to cut my pieces
Okay.
because I don't want gaps. And I can't use grout. It's not like I can go over my mosaic and fill in the gaps. So I've been thinking about using black hot glue
Oh,
to get down in between my gaps. And
yeah.
then I can just wipe it off with my hand.
Mhm.
So I've been thinking about that because I mean, I would love to be able to fill in the gaps. I've also been trying to figure out a way to get more precise cuts. And I use a guillotine, I use a bandsaw, I use a scroll saw, like I use all of these power tools. And even though I have fences and, materials jigs that help me get pieces because it's basically paper covered cardboard, it's
Yeah.
got a lot of slip to it. And so they don't always come out precise. So I did a thing that I didn't think I would ever do. And I did this thing, and I hope I have no regrets because it was an expensive thing. But I bought a laser cutter.
Oh, fun. That's fun.
Well, we'll see. We'll see because I thought maybe the flashpoint of my substrate would be too light and
Oh,
that I'm going to like start my crap on fire basically because it's just basically paper.
yeah.
So I had a bunch of like demos and did a lot of research, and I think I found the right one. But if I can, like, so I take a stack and they go through the bandsaw like all at one time and I get this slip, right? And then things don't fit precise. But if I can on the deck and the screen
Mhm.
of this new machine, if I can say cut all of this at one go, I'm hoping that they'll be more precise and that will open up my mosaics and then open up mosaics as kits. So that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm going and
Yes, to
thinking.
like mass produce, like to mass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't do
Yeah.
that the way that I do it now because it's just so labor intensive. So we will see. More to come on if I start fires because
Yeah.
that would really suck.
You need
So,
to have the fire department on call. Like, okay, I'm
well,
trying this thing. Can you guys
and I
just
talk
be
about
ready?
how accident prone I am, and like I just like
Yeah.
like we're at all hands on deck here. Like
Yeah.
my whole family is like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not sure, but we'll have fire extinguishers and I'll have adult supervision and we'll just see." But is going to be here like this week,
Oh,
and
that's so
so
exciting. Yeah.
I know, I know. I'm very
A
excited.
new
But
toy.
while I wait, I have gone back to like I do a lot of collage while I'm kind of in between my bigger projects. And,
Mhm.
you know, in my like, my junk journaly stuff that I do, like typically I have a formula and I have an article coming out in Strawberry Moon magazine. It'll be out in this next issue.
Oh,
And it's kind
cool.
of about my formula of how when I collage, I like to take, let me find you an example. I like to take a background, and maybe it's a background that I made on my jelly plate print. And then I usually add like
Oh,
something
cute.
something contrasting, right?
Yeah.
And I cut that out and I add it. And then if I'm gonna get really fancy, then I'll add like a sentiment. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of my formula is background, focal point, sentiment.
Mhm.
And that's how I collage. Well, I've been following this artist. I just found her. Her name is Estee McLeod, and she's from the UK.
What a cool
And
name. That's
I
such a
know,
cool
right? Could
name.
you imagine introducing yourself like that? I'm
Yes.
Estee McLeod. Like, it's just so beautiful. So Estee's got this idea where she takes painted papers. And for those of us in a collage space, like painting paper is like one of the things that we do all the time. Like we love it. And so her idea was to take the ABCs. So you just make a whole like sheet of A's, a whole sheet of B's, and a whole sheet of C's. And then you like you add on to the A's, the B's, and the C's, just ABC. And then you cut them out and you use them as a pattern on top of your painted papers. And I was like, okay, Esty, I'll give that a whirl. Hannah, look at this thing.
I can't pull it up closer. Oh, wow. So is it, I'm
So
trying to see it. It's really
these
great
are the A's.
that's watching.
So that's the A.
Okay.
So I just
That's
added on. I made more embellishments. This is a B. I just
Oh,
added on. And then this little do job here is a C.
and you just added on to it.
And I
Oh,
just
that's
added
really
on.
clever. Yeah. It's really cute.
And
That project was really cute.
right. And so now I'm in this collage phase where I'm like, okay, what else can I do with this? Because
Yeah.
it was like so fun. And like, and you know, she's like an artist. And she was
Mhm.
like, when I saw her talking about this, she was like, you're gonna want to keep like your source material of your ABCs so you can go back and reference them. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I would lose it. Like, there's no way that I'm gonna do that. And
Yeah.
so I did it and I cut them all out. And now if I ever want more A's, I'm going to have to go and make them because I didn't do what she told me to do.
To keep this. Yeah.
To keep the source material. Yeah, right. So she clearly knows more than I do. But this form of collage has just been really fun. And so now I'm thinking that, you know, this for me, because with Mother's Day being on Sunday, my mom, Josephine, she might end up with like some art for her refrigerator. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But on my work table, this is what I've been obsessed with is this kind of collage.
I'm going to have to look her up to see more of how that works.
Oh,
I'm not sure if my brain is fully wrapping around it.
well, and she's got like the accent and like it just sounds like everything
so
she says sounds like a prophecy, you know, it's like so brilliant and so beautiful.
Right.
And I could not believe how much I enjoyed. Like we were watching The Last of Us, which gives me a lot of stress anyway. Do you know about that show on HBO?
My husband watches it. I like refuse to watch anything dramatic.
Okay. It's
I don't
dramatic.
know what that says about me, but I won't.
Well, it's dramatic and scary, and
Yeah.
it was a video game, and my sons loved it, and so we watch it. But I watch it with anxiety because I know I'm going to be sad and upset. So I was doodling these ABCs, and I loved it. I loved kind of like the adding on, and I guess my whole point is like what's on my work table right now is like while I'm waiting to take this new step in my book board direction, I really have enjoyed this process of playing. And I don't feel like I do that enough in my life as an artist.
Yeah.
Because artist content creators, sometimes the world gets mushed.
It's very hard to do anything that's just for yourself.
Right. That's
that
fun.
Like it doesn't need to be productive.
Right. And so thank you, Estee McLeod. I've been having so much fun with this idea of using the letters, like just absolutely liberating and so fun. So I'll be sure to link her in the show notes so you all can find her. But my goodness, just so fun.
That's
so fun.
Well, it's really like fun when you find a creator that you really like or that's like kind of just inspiring or like gives you some like good ideas and makes you feel playful. Like makes you feel like you want to do something.
Right. Well, and so do you have this in common with me? So like, because my projects, it might be this way with your wedding bouquet, the bouquets, like since my projects can be so big and sometimes like my son took me 3 months, it's kind of hard sometimes to jump and start because I'm like, oh my God, it's going to take forever. And not that I really care so much about the forever. It's just the getting started, right? Yeah. It's just the getting started.
Yeah, it's like the hurdle of just like, oh boy, okay, this is gonna be a big one.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I'm gonna take the dive into it. But I rarely, I mean, I'm like you, I mean, I don't typically start one thing finished like from start to finish. Like I always have multiple projects going on at one time. I didn't always used to be that way, but now I feel like I have to.
Yeah.
have multiple things going on. I get too bored, and I do feel like it really helps my like artistic process if I step away from something for a little bit and then come back to it and with fresh eyes.
Agreed.
Yeah, especially if I'm like feeling kind of stumped or
I find too that I get really critical. So like when I think about, like, I look at it and I'm like, what? And then I walk away and I come back later and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. Like, why was I being so harsh and judgy? Like, this is great.
I do
Do
that
you
a
do
lot
that?
with bouquets. Oh, well, and especially with the wedding bouquets, because it's such a large piece and I'm working on such like small pieces at a time, that it's like I do one flower or something and I'm thinking like, ugh, like that did not come out like I wanted it to. And I hate to cut things out. So I really refuse, and I will just leave and then I'll come back, or I might add another element and then
And when you say cut it out, you mean literally cut the threads?
cut the threads out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with embroidery, like, I mean, one of the things that does make it that people don't realize that they shouldn't be intimidated by it is that if you make a mistake, you can essentially erase it. You can just cut the threads out and then just try again, or you can just pull the threads out. If it's not too big of a too many stitches in a row, you can just pull it out and just try again. So I will occasionally do that if I'm really like, okay, this is just not how I wanted it to look.
Right.
Or, if I've accidentally used the wrong shade, I have done that before, because I'll use a certain shade of white for flowers. And if I've accidentally grabbed a different shade of white and then done a flower and I'm looking at it going, why does this look weird? It looks shadowed or something. And I used the wrong shade of white for a flower, which is like just a dagger to the heart. Just an absolute, just makes you want to kick yourself. But sometimes I do end up cutting it out, but the vast majority of the time I take a step back, I come back and I say, oh no, this looks good. This is good.
Yeah.
Or I add another element in the bouquet and I realize you see the balance of it. Once you start adding more, you see it kind of come together versus when it's just on its own.
So I kind of know the answer to this already, but when you tell people what you do and then they say, oh my gosh, I could never do that, as in make a piece of embroidery.
Yeah.
What do you say to those people who like they want to, but they just don't believe they can?
I usually just say, yes, you can. I'm just like,
you're not like, stop being stupid. Of course you can.
Yeah. I'm just like, no, yes, you can. Yeah. Like it's because could you do your own wedding bouquet right off the bat? No, probably not.
Right.
But like, but my beginner level kits, I've had kids as young as 8 years old do my beginner level kits with adorable results. Especially the ornaments. I mean, the ornaments are so simple and abstract. My ornament kits are, most of them are more of an abstract vibe, so you really can't screw them up. So I usually tell people an 8-year-old could do this. So like you can definitely do it.
Well, and I would say that, I knew this answer because I was that person going, absolutely no way. There's no way I can make that. Because, like, one, it's so beautiful. Two, it looks so complicated. But then I totally did. I totally made it. And then I made 4 more and I love them so much. And I think too, it's kind of like, I remember my mom trying to teach me how to embroider, and she was very like precise and rule bound. She also tried to teach me how to knit, so precise and rule bound. And I couldn't do any of those things until I fired my mom and taught myself.
You're fired, Mom.
You're fired. I appreciate you. Because like my funniest story about my mom teaching me how to knit, like, so hilarious. So we were sitting on the couch and she was trying to show me how to purl. And I was saying, Mom, I do not understand. What do you mean? And she just said, you purl, you purl. And she just kept saying it like that. And I just kept saying, I do not, this word you say, I don't know what that word means. And she just kept repeating, you purl, like over and over. And then she started laughing because like she just couldn't explain it. Like she couldn't break it down because her hands knew how to do it. And then when I had a friend teach me how to knit, and like she held the knitting needle against her stomach and like tossed the yarn over the top, I was like, that's it? That's the big secret? Like, what? But, my mom learned from her mom,
Right.
right? Like, and Myrtle held pretty tight to those rules. And so,
Mhm.
it's not until it trickles down, to the Gen X and the millennials who are like, could we please just make this a little bit easier to understand?
Well, there's definitely like, first of all, that whole story just reminded me of that show Schitt's Creek when she's like, "You just fold
You
in the
sold
sheets,
it. You fold
David."
it, David.
Just
Yes,
fold it in.
you sold
Um,
it.
but I have found the people who give me the most grief on
Mm,
YouTube are of the older generation typically, but
mhm.
they're never talking about their own work. They're talking
Right.
about, well, my grandma couldn't
Yes.
do this and that, and I just chuckle and
Mhm.
I typically try not to respond, but I just think, well, I bet you your grandma wouldn't have said anything to me
You're
because
right.
because nobody who is better than you at something is going to criticize you about it. Because
Right.
why would they waste their time criticizing
Right.
someone that's not as good as them type of thing? So I try to just like let it fall off my shoulder
Yes.
as much as I can. And that's the whole reason I'm here is to take away the intimidation factor of it and be
Mhm.
like, well, are you happy with it? Did you have fun doing it? There you go.
Right.
Wonderful. Amazing.
Right.
Like that's amazing. You learned something new and you had fun doing it. You don't have to unless
Mhm.
unless like I said, unless you're entering it into the county fair. It doesn't need to be perfect.
Well, and even if you are entering it into the county fair, like if you need, like, Hannah, maybe you should do downloads of blue ribbons, like, like if you need that blue ribbon, like if you need it,
Yeah, here it is.
download, here's a download, and like, boom, you did it. Like,
Yeah.
here's your,
You did it. I think it is a
let's be
generational
proud.
thing, and and like I said, I can appreciate a clean back when it's necessary or
Yeah.
when it's pragmatic. But if to me, it's always been if it's gonna stop someone from making something
Right.
beautiful, then absolutely not. I am not.
Right.
I'm not going to bow down to the old ways and the strictness, the rule following. If it's going to hinder
Mhm.
a young mom who has two kids that are playing at her feet, who
Mm.
desperately needs something of her own to do, to stop her from trying something new because of what the back is going to look like. I mean,
Right.
come on, it's just so silly to bash people for making
Mhm.
something beautiful because they're not following this like
Mhm.
super old traditional
Mhm.
rule.
Mhm.
It just
Well,
seems
I think that, like, once I discovered that embroidery is accessible even to a messy maker like me. Like, I'm a messy, messy maker, and my workshop is a mess, and my projects are messy, and I'm usually full of dust and paint and glue. Like, that I could do something a bit more refined and kind of fragile, right?
yeah, right.
Like, it
More
was
delicate.
nobody more delicate, yes.
Yeah.
Nobody more surprised than me that this was possible. And like I said, I it's kinda like with this particular handicraft for sure, um, once I got a little nip of that sauce, I wanted more, right?
Yeah.
Because then I made it in yellow, and then I
So
made
cute.
it in magenta,
Yeah,
and
adorable.
then I made another one of these, like, I just couldn't stop. And so I think that, like, for those of you listening, if you've thought about trying embroidery, in my own experience, and yes, she's a good friend, but I would say it anyway, is that, like, Hannah has broke this down, and, like, if you start with this, like, that's the thing. Like, that's what I loved about this part of your beginner project is that I don't feel like it's beginner, and I don't
Right,
feel like it
right.
looks beginner. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like it looks kind of, like, elevated and a little bit fancy, and, like, I still can't believe I made it.
You have a nice finished product and
Mhm.
that's not just a stitch sampler. It's not
Right.
just a row of
Right.
stitches, which is how I
Right.
started, but it's an actual finished project that you can
Mhm.
be proud of. So,
Well,
like I
and
said,
we should say, if you could, can you pull up your Evelyn? So
oh,
our mutual friend Kate over at Modern Hoopla. So Kate over at Modern Hoopla, I'll link her in these show notes too. She makes these frames. Like
right.
a woman entrepreneur with this cool machine.
And you pop them in and out.
And you pop them in and out. And like that was her vision. And she's so brilliant and so smart. So this at Modern Hoopla. So you put your Evelyn or your Lindsay inside there. And this question too of like, what do you do with it? Boom. Elevated.
Yeah, this is what I do with them. This is how my wedding bouquets are all framed in Kate's Modern Hooplas frames. I just pop them in, and then
and it even has like a little groove in the back for the nut thing.
The marks for like the screws, like to hang it.
And that's where the little, Hannah, what is this called?
The bracket.
Yeah. Oh, the bracket.
Yeah, that pops in there, and then you can just you can pop them in. And she has these in all different shapes, sizes. So if you don't like the circle, you can she has square, like square and rectangle cutouts, and then she also has these little stands. I don't know if you saw these, Joleen. That's what I have behind me. Is these little?
I do. I love those stands
for your hoop. So you flip it so that the bracket is on the bottom.
Oh, I didn't get that bit. Okay.
And then you just put it like this, so then it stands upright on an angle. So this is like for a shelf. So if you want,
and that's a Lindsay.
Yeah, this is it's the McKenna because it's the different colors.
Oh, because a different color. Okay.
But in 3 different colors. So the pink is the Lindsay, but then the terracotta is McKenna, and the yellow is Kayla. Named after all my kits are named after my favorite ladies. So my my sister-in-law is Lindsay, and her daughters are McKenna and Kayla, and then Evelyn's my daughter.
I got
the whole gamut. So
have you thought about a Jolene?
I know. I was just I need to go through the craft girls now because now with my kids I need to go through. Jolene, Andrea, Lacey.
Yeah, like if I could put in a vote that I want mine to be kind of like Dolly Parton inspired,
okay,
like maybe like some
Dolly Parton, like a wig.
I don't know, something like that, because people have been singing me the Jolene song since I was in 2nd grade, and like I didn't really like it back then, but I love it now. It's a great song, and like
I'll have to think about
and if you feel so inspired.
Text the other day to say, okay, everyone give me their favorite flowers so I can keep you in mind when I come through with different kits, because I try to match them up with people's personalities or like stories I have about them, or and colors that feel like them,
so here's the thing too, like I love birds. I would love to do a bird, but that seems really hard just because of like shadowing and
and that's not my game. Like people when I first started doing embroidery, I was just doing customs, and I would do anything anybody asked me.
Right.
Just trying to sell something,
Right. So do you do a car? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I can do a car.
I did some questionable things, and I was just willing to try anything. So I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this. Maybe I'll text you afterwards.
Okay.
But I did a couple of sayings that were inappropriate. But in embroidery,
because that was embroidery. Yes.
Embroidery. So I did that for my husband's cousin, Jason. He in his camper, he wanted a saying in the camper in embroidery and fancy embroidery in this big hoop, and I did that.
Right.
But anyways, back to the bird thing. I did do a couple of animal pieces. So I've done like 3 dog portraits, and after that I said never again. I will never do this again. I've done a duck, like a bird, very difficult, and for me too repetitive, like too
sounds kind of rigid.
Too the same thing, and so delicate. But if you like birds, I'm trying to think of a couple of the girls that do birds. Well, stitching sabbatical she was one of my first like embroidery inspirations for Kindle Stitching Sabbatical.
Okay.
She does all animals, and the dog portraits and horses, snakes, she's done everything. The animals, it's absolutely incredible. Like, I mean, in museums, like it's unreal the work that she does. So if you want to see birds, like I would go check her out, because
Stitching Sabbatical. Okay.
Stitching Sabbatical. Yeah.
Okay. That's a great name too.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. Just like I could never.
Well, I am pretty happy with my florals. I love the florals, but if I was going to dabble, but see, even talking about it, like as you describe it, I'm now intimidated again. And I'm like, no, I don't think I want to do a bird. I think I just want to look at it. You know what I mean? Like I would appreciate it and love it, but I don't think I want to make it. Like, cause in my embroidery journey, I love flowers. I love my abstract, weird, like cutting out scrap fabric, because that was all fabric that I saved from the landfill, if you remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And so I cut all of that fabric apart and used it for these like fun appliques, and that makes me super happy. And my florals make me happy. And I will finish my butterfly from my butterfly kit.
I know.
That's my next one. Oh, well, Hannah, thank you so much for being here. Like, thank you for talking to me about all of this. And I really, really appreciate how you've inspired me, honest to goodness. Like when you said I could do it, I had my doubts, but you were absolutely right. And I'm so glad that I discovered this, like you helped me discover that I could do this. And I'm just so grateful because it's so fun.
Well, I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad that you're enjoying it and that you not only do it once, but it's like, 4 times. So I mean, and your work always inspires us. When you send us the stuff in the group chat, I'm like, what is this? I just like this. She's just like busting out the most ridiculously amazing museum quality, art gallery quality stuff, and I'm over here with like my little roses.
But you know what I love? I love that my embroidery projects are a grab and go, because I cannot bring, a 53-inch by 34-inch who's it left it in the car. So I love that. And I also love that, like, when I gave my first one to my mom, and she was actually really surprised that I parted with it. And I was like, it's okay, because
I can make another one. Yeah.
I had another one, but she didn't know that. And cause I was kind of gushing and eyeing over like that I had made. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised you gave this to me. And in the background, I was like, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, right. Little do you know.
That's right. Little do you know. But anyway, in the show notes, I will be sure to link all the things that we've talked about so that more and more folks can find you, because like I said, I'm so grateful that I am now aware and exposed, and I appreciate so much that you were with us today. Yes. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I did add a discount code for your listeners with happy. So just happy in all caps.
Nice.
10% off your order.
Oh,
for a course or kit or anything. So
so our discount code is happy.
Happy.
I will link that in the show notes as well. And before we say goodbye, I just want to let you know on my next Happy Time Craftcast, I don't want to say that our guest is a mystery, but our guest is a mystery because I don't remember. So so whoever you are, I love you and I appreciate you, and I will be sure to find out and link it in our show notes. And I really appreciate everyone listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.